Grays Lake 120 still blocked near 83 with a stalled freight train. Inbound Kennedy, delays start at Nagel. It's an hour from O'Hare to downtown, 41 minutes from Montrose, 23 on the Express. Outbound 40 to the airport, 48 minutes from Wolf. Stevenson, an hour and 11 minutes, 3:55 to Lakeshore Drive. The ride, 40 minutes from 95th. I-57, 30 minutes, I-80 to the Verge Bishop, 4:55. See delays on the tollways, including the eastbound Reagan tollway from 31 all the way to Midwest Road. 53 southbound, it's heavy Peloton to Kirchhoff. Northbound, Dundee to Lake Cook. I'm Jim Calamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Snow and rain through the morning. High 35. We'll have clouds for the bulk of the day, and then rain and snow kicks up again overnight. Up to 1 inch could fall. A low of 32. Right now, 30. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, and your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity.
The virus apparently originated. No outbound flights or trains, shut down its public transportation system in order to contain this virus that leads to pneumonia and other respiratory troubles.
Yeah, and they're even stopping cars on the highway because in one day the death toll from this coronavirus doubled. So the official death toll stands at 17 with over 470 total cases.
Right, and you've got,
so far.
And you've had, of course, the nature of virus. I guess health authorities originally thought this just was animal to human, but then there was a human to human case of a Japanese person, and then now there's been a case in America too in Washington State.
And it all started in this seafood market that also sells live snakes, bats, farm animals, poultry, and seafood. And so they're thinking that the virus went from a bat, traveled into the cobra snake, and the cobra snake transferred it to a human. And now it's going human to human.
Well, that's the circle of life, Simba. For more on this and how much of a panic we should be in, I can't imagine it's as much as the media suggests we should be in. But let's get the medicine on this, medical knowledge on this. We're pleased to be joined by Dr. Michael Ison, who's a professor of medicine, infectious diseases division at the Feinberg School of Medicine. That's Northwestern. Dr. Ison, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. It's nice to be here.
So can you give us a sense of, I guess, number one, how dangerous is this virus? And number two, how effectively do you think authorities across the world have moved to try to contain it?
Yeah. So I think that, the first question is how serious is this? And we're still relatively early and still getting more information, I think, as evidenced by how the numbers of cases and the number of fatal cases has increased over the last couple of days. That being said, I think although doubling of the number of deaths sounds scary, if you look at the absolute rate for what we know today, it's still relatively low, around 3 to 4%, and that percentage is held to date so far. Most of the deaths apparently have been occurring in older people with other underlying medical conditions. And the critical thing is that all cases to date have been traced back to contact with Wuhan itself or recent travel from that area. As was mentioned, there are human-to-human case reports that are coming out, and clearly something that we should be keeping an eye on. That being said, for people here in Chicago, unless you've traveled to Wuhan, China, or in direct contact with someone who has very recently returned from that area, the risk to them is relatively low.
What are the symptoms of this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know if you might have it? Because, a lot of people have the flu right now and a cold.
Yeah. So the real challenge is the symptoms of this virus are very much like any respiratory infection. It can start with fever, although not all patients have fever initially. Respiratory symptoms, cough, sneezing, shortness of breath is an indicator that things are getting more severe. The challenge is that, as you highlighted, here in the United States, we're in the middle of flu season, and it's more likely that they have a common cold or a flu virus than this infection.
But is the treatment of, say, the flu virus and this markedly different?
Oh, very much so.
Okay.
So currently there's only approved therapy for the treatment of influenza. There aren't proven treatments for this virus, although there are studies that should be starting relatively soon looking at some novel therapies against this virus taking place in
And
China.
how can we protect ourselves from, obviously, I mean, not coming into contact with someone who just came from Wuhan, China?
I think that's the critical thing. I think beyond that, at this point, really, there's nothing specific that patients should be doing to avoid getting sick beyond what they should be doing anyhow to avoid getting the colds or flus, which is washing their hands regularly with soap and water or alcohol hand gels, avoiding people that are sick, covering their mouths when they cough and sneeze, and if they're sick, especially if they're febrile, stay home, and if things continue to get worse, to call their doctor.
Do we have an understanding of what the incubation period is, so we know how long somebody might be contagious?
Yeah, the incubation period is usually 5 to 7 days, although there have been cases that have been longer. And what people are recommending is anyone with respiratory symptoms that's had contact with Wuhan or someone from Wuhan within the past 14 days would be someone that would be of concern for this.
And what do you know about the one confirmed case here in Everett, Washington, a suburb of Seattle?
Yeah. So this individual had traveled back from the region, the affected region, so again had clear contact. They weren't sick initially, and then started getting more sick with more significant respiratory illnesses, and went in to see their doctor.
Is there anything that you think authorities should be doing other than sort of shutting down the ability of people in and around Wuhan to travel globally?
Yeah. So, whether or not that's the right decision, we'll figure out after this is over. I think that the health agencies are doing what they can. I think that the biggest thing is they are doing what we as Americans should be doing, which is just paying attention to information as it comes out. The benefit that we have today is we have much better tools and much better communication to allow this information and virus to be shared with relevant parties, so that diagnostics and therapeutics can be developed and implemented as quickly as possible.
And of course, we also have a lot of case studies, not necessarily specific to this virus, but to viruses and that have taken on an international character. SARS 20 years ago, Ebola. And so, what lessons do those provide for how we should approach these things?
Well, I think the lessons show that you really have to understand what the virus is, how it's transmitted, because how MERS and SARS is transmitted is very different from Ebola, for example. And so that will modulate the recommendations that are continually updated by the World Health Organization and CDC.
He is Dr. Michael Ison. He's professor of medicine, infectious diseases division at the Feinberg School of Medicine. That's Northwestern. Dr. Ison, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
This is attorney Stephen Leahy, host of the IRS Radio Hour, heard right here on AM 560 every Sunday evening at 5 o'clock. Let me tell you about Bill. Bill's business slowed down and he fell behind on his taxes. Instead of filing his tax return, he decided to wait until he could pay. Well, 1 year turned to 2, turned to 3. Then the IRS threatened to contact his customers, take his house, his bank account, and his passport. Well, Bill hired me. We filed all of his tax returns and an appeal to slow the IRS down. Then we worked out an installment agreement based on how much he could pay, not on how much he owed. Now Bill can rely on the IRS protection plan. We will file his future tax returns and keep the IRS off his back so Bill can focus on growing his business. If you have questions about the IRS, you can get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today, to learn the secrets of solving your IRS problem and save your business, your marriage, and your reputation. Call 312-664-6649 or go to freeirsbook.com.
No matter where I go, somebody always comes up to me and says, hey, do you really take Balance of Nature? Does it work? And I have to say yes, because I was off of it for about 4 weeks and I was so sick. My immune system was absolutely destroyed. I had sinus infection, vertigo, bronchitis. I mean, everything you can imagine. I had the common cold too and the flu. So I'm trying to stay healthy and I'm 3 weeks in.